was 24 years old. He was also already a huge success. And he was interviewed by a music writer for Playboy Magazine called Nat Hentoff. Anybody remember that? Those males in the audience, do you remember when we used to read Playboy Magazine for the articles? Anyway, it was published, I believe, in February 1966, and it became one of the most legendary interviews of Bob Dylan. And I did tell you he sometimes comes here, and we are in luck tonight. Bob Dylan is here. So please help me introduce and welcome little Bobby Zimmerman from Sedona, Arizona. And if you can ignore the color of my skin, I will be Nat Hentoff for the next few minutes. Why do you think rock and roll has become such an international phenomenon, Bob?
Wow, wait a minute. First off, I can't believe there is any such thing as rock and roll. And when you think about it, something with no real existence is bound to become an international phenomenon. What does it mean, rock and roll? Is it the Beatles, John Lee Hooker, Bobby Vinton, Jerry Lewis's kid? What about Lawrence Welk? Surely he must play at least a couple rock and roll songs. Are all these people the same? Is Otis Redding like Ricky Nelson? Now, I can tell by the way someone holds their cigarette if they like Ricky Nelson, but that's not the point. I could care less about whether they like Ricky Nelson. And the word is not international phenomenon. The word is parental nightmare.
You used to say that you wanted to perform as little as possible. Yet you're doing more concerts and cutting more records every year. Why? Is it the money?
Well, you know, man, everything is different from before. I mean, last spring I was very drained. I guess I was going to quit singing. You know, I mean, when you're up on stage night after night singing, "Everybody loves you for your black eye," and meanwhile the back of your head is caving in. Well, anyways, I was up on stage playing and singing a whole bunch of songs I really didn't want to play or sing.
Rolling Stone.
Like a Rolling Stone changed everything for me. It was something I myself could dig. You know, it's very tiring to have people tell you how much they dig you when you don't dig yourself. Contrary to what some very scary kind of people think, I didn't form a combo for any kind of propaganda or commercial type reason. It's because my songs are pictures and the band makes the sound of the pictures.
Well, do you feel like acquiring that combo and switching from folk to folk rock has improved you as a performer?
Oh, look, I don't care about myself as a performer. Performers are people who perform for other people. Unlike actors, I know what I'm saying. It's ultra simple in my mind. What happens up on stage does not depend on any type of audience reaction. It's straight. What happens up on stage is straight. It doesn't require any rewards or fines from outside agitators. What goes on stage would happen whether anybody was looking and listening or not. Everybody knows I'm not a folk singer.
Some of your old fans would agree with you since your debut with the rock and roll combo at last year's Newport Folk Festival, where many of them booed you loudly for selling out to commercial pop tastes. The early Bob Dylan, they felt, was the pure Bob Dylan. How do you feel about that?
Well, I was kind of stunned. I mean, I can't blame anybody for booing. After all, they paid to come in, but they didn't have to be quite so loud or persistent. You know, there were all these old people there. There were whole families that had come down from Vermont. There were nurses and their parents, and they were hoping just to hear, you know, a couple hoedown songs, maybe an exciting polka or two. And suddenly I get up on stage, and the whole place turns into a beer factory. There were a lot of people who were very pleased that I got booed, and I really resent the fact that everybody who said they booed me did it because they were old fans.
Well, Bob, there were a lot of people who didn't like your new sound. In view of this widespread negative reaction, do you think you may have made a mistake in changing your style? What made you decide to go into rock and roll?
Carelessness. You know, I lost my one true love. I started drinking. I got into a card game. I woke up in a pool hall, and this big Mexican lady grabbed me, dragged me off the table, and took me to Philadelphia. She'd left me alone in her house, and it burned down. So I went down to Phoenix. I moved in with this 15-year-old girl. I got a job as a Chinaman. Everything was going great when this big Mexican lady from Philadelphia showed up and burned down the house. So then I'm on to Dallas, you know, and I got this roommate who's a delivery boy, but he makes this fantastic chili dogs. And everything's going well when this 15-year-old girl from Phoenix shows up. And she burns down the house. Next thing I know, I'm in Omaha. It's so cold. I'm rubbing my own bicycles, I'm frying my own fish, and I move in with this teacher who does a little plumbing on the side. She ain't much to look at, but she's invented this special kind of refrigerator that can turn newspapers into lettuce. And everything's going good when this delivery boy from Dallas shows up. He burned down the house. I was forced to hit the road. The first guy that picked me up asked me if I wanted to be a star. What could I say?
And that's how you became a rock and roll star?
That's how I got tuberculosis.
Your early ballads have been called songs of passionate protest. Wouldn't that make them message music?
Oh, this is so important. Unimportant. You got to understand, I started writing when I was 8. I started playing guitar when I was 10. I was raised my whole life writing and playing whatever it was I had to write and play.
Would it be unfair to say that then, as some have, that you were motivated commercially rather than creatively in writing the kind of songs that made you popular?
Ah! All right. Look now, it's not that complicated. My motives, or whatever they were never commercial in the money sense of the word. I never did it for the money. It happened. I let it happen to me. There was no reason not to let it happen to me.
Are you constipated?
This is all nowhere, nothing.
Okay.
See, here's the thing. A long time ago, I couldn't have written the songs that I write now, right? Everybody knows my early songs were about nothing. My later songs, the ones I write now, are about the same nothing, but in the larger context of something we call the nowhere. But this is all very constipated. I know what my songs are about.
And what are they about, Bob?
Well, some songs are about 4 minutes long. Some songs are about 5 minutes long. Believe it or not, some songs are about 11 or 12 minutes long.
Can't you be a little more informative?
Nope.
Well, even though you're not a school teacher, wouldn't you like to help the young people who dig you from turning into what some of their parents have become?
Oh, I don't know if anybody's parents are really all that bad. I mean, I don't mean to sound like a weakling or a coward. And I don't mean to sound irreligious, but I am not the right person to run around the country trying to save souls. Don't get me wrong, I would never run somebody over just for laying down in the street. I will certainly not become an executioner. Wouldn't think twice about giving a starving man a cigarette, but I am not a shepherd.
Well, still thousands of young people look to you as some kind of folk hero. Do you feel some sense of responsibility at least?
Oh no, I feel no responsibility at all. Whoever listens to my songs owes me nothing. How could I possibly have any kind of responsibility for thousands? Why would I have any responsibility for anybody who just happens to be there? I am not going to run around the country telling people to be a good boy or a good girl and they'll get into heaven. I'll tell you what, I bet Tony Bennett doesn't have to deal with this crap. And I wonder, how would Billy the Kid answer that kind of question?
Most big stars find it difficult to avoid getting involved and sometimes entangled in managing the business end of their careers. Do you ever feel boxed in by such non-creative responsibility?
Oh no, I have other people who do that for me. They watch my money. They guard my money. They keep their eyes on my money at all times. They're supposed to be very smart when it comes to my money. I hardly talk to them at all, and they don't talk to me much either, so I guess everything is going okay.
Well, fortune hasn't trapped you. How about fame? Do you find that your celebrity makes it difficult to keep your private life intact?
My private life has been dangerous from the very beginning. All this does is add a little atmosphere.
Used to enjoy wandering across the country, taking off on open-end trips, roughing it from town to town, with no particular destination in mind, but you seem to be doing much less of that these days. Why? Is it because you're too well known?
No, it's mostly because I have to be in Cincinnati Friday night, I have to be in Atlanta on Saturday, Buffalo the night after that, and then I have to write some new songs for the next record album.
Do you ever get a chance to ride your motorcycle very much anymore?
I am still very patriotic to the highway, but no, I don't get a chance to ride my motorcycle very much
Well,
anymore.
how do you get your kicks these days?
Oh, for that, I hire people to look me in my eyes, and then I have them kick me.
And that's the way you get your kicks.
No, then I look them in the eyes, and I forgive them. That's how I get my kicks.
You told an interview last year, "I've done everything I've ever wanted to do." If that's true, what do you have to look forward to?
Salvation. Just plain salvation.
Gary Every, please. Poet laureate of the Bob Dylan Show. The amazing thing about that interview, and you should all look it up and read it, is it was spontaneous. All this stuff that sounds crazy, it was just off the top of his head. It was pure Bob Dylan. All right.